Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel, where everything you're about to hear and see has been done in one take. I'm your host, the One Take Man. About 2 years ago, both as of the time of this video's production and of its release, Madam Web, the movie, was released. Another one in a line of failures by Sony Pictures to develop a cinematic universe based around characters from the Spider-Man mythos, but without Spider-Man himself. This movie, I will say that potentially more so than the uh, others, than the other notorious flops from this from this particular cinematic experiment, did actually have some level of potential to it. And it is that level of potential that I actually want to develop using the building blocks that the movie itself establishes. I'll try to keep the connections to the comics uh, somewhat limited because, well, the comics, because, well, let's be honest, pretty much even the best adaptations of Madam Web don't really follow don't really follow the comics, because in the comics she is but I think she's really popular primarily because she has aura, because of the way that she presents herself. But a lot of that presentation is due to her having a chronic illness. But her actual abilities are quite limited, which is why even her best adaptations, Spider-Man 94 and Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions, very much give her additional powers beyond beyond what the comics do. So for that reason, I'm not going to touch upon the comics too much. I'm simply going to look at the movie and and cover what I think would make for a would make it better. Note, this will not be a scene for scene rewrite. This is just this is just broadly how to make how to make the movie better. The first important change I would make is to skip on the prologue. Like, we don't need to see we don't need to see Cassandra's mother along with Zachariah Sims in the Peruvian jungles in the early 70s. That is not something that needs to be a part of this movie. It can just be it can just be scrapped. And if you want to establish the villain, well, I have another idea for the villain, which I will keep on the down low for now, but we'll we'll reveal later when the time is right. The second thing I would change is when exactly it takes place. Like, there really is no reason for the movie to take place in 2003, but it really only exists as it stands because because Sony wanted to establish, or Sony or whatever producer at Sony, I think Avi Arad, wanted to establish a uh, future a future Spider-Man, or a future for the movie Spider-Man, who would actually be contemporary to uh, modern audiences. But that really isn't the case, and but that really isn't necessary for the sake of this movie. And I would actually argue that it works better if there already is a Spider-Man out there to some degree, and and also if there are more modern communication devices available to all characters to help ramp up the ramp up the tension that would be the result of this conflict. The third major change I would make to this movie is giving it a different villain. Really, Zachariah Sims is not at all an interesting character. Like, in the way that he is put together, in the way he is presented, in his motivations, he is maybe interesting to he's maybe interesting to look at, maybe interesting to write fan fiction about. I guess, I don't know, but he doesn't really inspire anything. He doesn't really have any kind of, like, he doesn't really have that level of drip or that level of aura that would make him an interesting villain for for this particular movie, and perhaps a little more broadly for the Spider-Man franchise or Spider-Man IP. So, who would I pick as the villain for this movie instead? Morlun. Yes, really. Spider-Man, at least more, or rather more recent Spider-Man properties, have had a little bit of a mystical undertone, and I would very much argue that Madam Web very much fits into that more mystical side of the Spider-Man lore. Morlun is, is potentially the most noteworthy villain from that, side as well. His deal is quite dissimilar to that of Zachariah Sims, in the sense that he also tracks down spider people, but that is because he draws his strength from people who have some kind of spider marker, and through the drawing of said strength, these the people he gets his power from die out. So that's what makes him a threat, and that's what makes him generally a threat to Spider-Man. But it would also make him a threat to other people who have some kind of spider association. So spider-based superheroes. If you think about the Spider-Verse movies, which also came out around the same time, or that became a that became a big deal around the same time that Madam Web came out. It kind of makes sense to consider this like a live action Spider-Verse movie. And leaning into that Spider-Verse connection a little bit more, I do actually think that that connection could be tied a little bit more into how into how Cassie Webb gets her visions. Maybe like she sees them through some kind of spider web, for example. That could be an interesting visual trick, which would help add some level of distinctiveness to the movie. Why a spider? Well, because she would also have this kind of maybe a quasi divine, quasi mystical spider marker to her, but that would not be the only way in which it would manifest. I think she would also have an interest in spiders. I do very much agree. I do very much find it interesting to have her be an EMT. I think that's a good idea overall for her character, or at least for a character within this kind of story. But I do also think it would be an interesting twist to give her an interest in spiders, and to know various types of spiders and potentially be fascinated by them. And it is in that sense that and from that point forward, it also makes sense to have her mother be an entomologist who specializes in spiders. And I think the term for that is arachnologist. So someone with whom Cassie could share this fascination, could share this interest, which in turn could mirror could then be mirrored by how it is that she receives visions. And it is through these visions that she learns that three young women who are also in some way associated with a spider are being pursued by this character who we later find out is called Morlun. And that very much would change this movie from from an action chase movie to more of a supernatural thriller, one where the stakes are maybe not high, but they are personal, and and through the ways in which the realization occurs, through the power discrepancy that emerges between these factions, there is a level of tension that is built from how exactly they'll be able to avoid from how Cassie's proteges would be able to avoid Morlun. because that is very much what they will be relying upon throughout most of the movie. Up until, I'm gonna say, around the end, where I think the all is lost moment should be about Cassie losing a lot of her mobility, and potentially after an attack, by Morlun. Only to then see her powers like fully emerge, so to speak. So yeah, this movie, I intend for this movie to also fall into that same trap of giving Madame Web additional powers. In this case, I imagine she would have something to the degree of enhanced psychic abilities that would allow her visions to become to become more poignant, more broad, more all-encompassing, and also giving her the ability to target them better. Additionally, I am considering potentially giving her some level of telekinesis as well, so that she could potentially also involve herself in the action climax of the piece, along with the three proteges who, after having spent most of the movie being chased by this guy, finally say enough is enough. We now have a better understanding of our powers and how to most effectively use them. Now let's actually use them. Let's kick this guy's ass. So yeah, that is basically my idea. It's going to be a pursuit thriller with an unconventional pursuit thriller with a feel good ending. I think that is really the best best kind of configuration that this movie could really hope to have. And I think it is a movie that would allow and I think it is a setup that allows all the characters to shine in all the ways that they really are supposed to shine. And yeah, that was it. That was my pitch for how Madame Web should have been made. If you enjoyed it, well then please like the video, maybe even share it wherever you think other people will also like the video. If there's anything you'd like to add, either to the movie itself or to my rewrite, that is what the comment section is for. And if you want to see when my next video gets released, well then please subscribe. And ideally also ring the bell or do whatever else YouTube will ask of you in order to keep you notified. I also have a main channel where I talk about book-related and literature topics, a link to which you can find in the description down below, right past my social media links, which I would suggest you check out should you choose to. If you find yourself to be less than interested in thoughts on the print medium, even if they are mine, well then I suggest you stay on this channel and go for my extensive backlog, where aside from the occasional rewrites of either movies or TV shows, I also do reviews, overviews, and pitches of movies or TV shows, along with videos on a whole bunch of other topics, some of which might even be of interest to you. If that doesn't sound like it's up your alley either, well then I suggest you go ahead and do whatever you want the rest of your day, because it is your day after all. And yeah, that was it for me. So until next time, I have been the One Take Man.